Welcome in. I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything beauty, fitness, and lifestyle for the over 50 and over 60 woman. I was just telling Connie a second ago, I'm really close to 70. I can't even believe it. I am so glad you're here today because we are going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart, which is good health. And I'll tell you, ladies, if there's one thing in my life that I am focused on and I spend my time and energy and some money on is my health, because as I grow older, and I just said I'm going to be 70 closer than I can imagine, I don't want to feel old. I want to feel energetic. I want to have mobility. I want to be able to do stuff. I don't want to sit in my chair because I can't. So being healthy is really important to me. And we're joined today by my good friend, Connie, who I'm going to introduce in just a minute because first I have a rant. Connie is a functional nutritionist. She has helped me completely turn my health around. I thought I was on a healthy journey. I thought I was eating right. I wasn't. She got a hold of me and she said, "You know what, girl? We want to make some changes." And what I found out, and we all know this now, and this is what I want to drive home in the beginning. Our food supply, particularly in the United States, is a toxic waste dump. I am not kidding you. Corporations have taken over our food system. It is not healthy food. They are pitching stuff and telling us it's good for us when it's absolutely not. There is toxic stuff in everything in the grocery store, almost, particularly if you're in the center part of the grocery store. And we're not getting the truth about what we really need to be healthy. And I'm kind of sick of it because I swear I'm going to do a video where I'm in the grocery store undercover and I'm going to be pointing out all the things that are so bad for you that they're going to say heart healthy or good for a diet or this and that, good fiber, this and that. And it's just full of toxic stuff. So today, Connie's going to talk to us a little bit about how we can learn to identify it, how we can get this stuff out of our diet. It has made a tremendous difference for me. And the more education we have about how do you really get healthy, just the better we're going to feel. So welcome in, Connie, with that long introduction and my rant. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, Kimberly. It's so good to be here. And I'm so excited to kind of hopefully make sense of some of the toxic, play that's happening. We have no control over, but we do get to control what we put in our mouths.
Yeah. And, I look around my neighborhood and I live in a community where most people are my age, within, 10, 20 years, either direction. And I know that people are confused because I can look at them and see that they're inflamed. I can look at them and know what their diet is like. And they're probably not even realizing all the seed oils, all the junk, all the chemicals, all the preservatives that's in that food that is packaged up looking all pretty in the grocery store. It's just making us sicker and sicker and sicker. So, how do we begin to identify what we don't want? And that just starts the process.
Well, typically, first of all, that packaged food tastes delicious and it's convenient. And it's especially when we get to this age, the menopausal years where we've worked hard all of our lives, we now feel like we deserve a little bit of an easy road. And maybe we don't digest as robustly, or we've got some other health issues happening. We have we're tired because of what's happening environmentally, and the aging process is upon us. And so convenience really, really comes into play here. And the grocery store is you walk in the front door and you walk down the aisle and, oh, there's something that's tempting. And maybe I'll just try it once and, it fills you up. And so it's the placeholder there that is creating the toxic soup that becomes what we're living in.
Yeah.
So it's awareness. It's appreciating that we need to get back to basics, cook whole, natural foods that don't have labels on them, right? The fruits and vegetables, and the produce department, the meat department, sometimes the dairy. So the outside perimeters of the grocery store are pretty much okay. And the farmers markets and, you know, the more high quality, non packaged and processed foods are where we want to really focus on.
Okay. So if we're looking at a kitchen full of boxes of food
Right.
or a food that is manufactured by a corporation, what's in that food that's making us so sick?
The grains that they used are genetically modified. They have cells that shouldn't be in their splice. Say the wheat has cells spliced. And the reason this happened, in my opinion, and from my knowledge, is that we wanted to make things better to feed more people. So the scientists wanted a better grains, stock with more robust and more volume to get more bang for buck. Okay, so then they started playing around with it. They add pesticides, okay, because that is going to make it a better end product, not really taking into consideration what it was going to do to our human vessel, right? We haven't evolved to deal with the toxic load of the GMOs and the pesticides, not to mention the way it's processed. Now, that processed cracker that seems, pretty healthy because it's whole wheat, has genetically modified grain. It is full of pesticides, and then it's milled in a way that is nothing like what our grandparents ate, because all of the nutrients have been milled out. So it's down to the flour. And then they add in toxic oils instead of butter and lard that used to be in the crackers that were produced or made by grandma in the kitchen. And so it's this complete frankenfood that is highly toxic, inflammatory, tastes delicious, and very much, making us sick and tired.
It is making us sick. And what about the drying the wheat with glyphosate?
Oh, absolutely. That's the pesticide. Well, and I don't know. I don't want to say it was all nefarious, but it just made a better end product, not concerned with how it affected the human.
Yeah. It's not food. It's a
No.
product.
Yeah.
It's a product, and it's making corporations billions of dollars. And what's happening along the way is we are getting fatter and more inflamed and sicker and more tired and more discouraged and more depressed. That's what's happening.
Absolutely.
I'm the bad cop today, you guys. I actually do think it's a little nefarious in the sense that the consideration is for profit. It's not for feeding humans.
Absolutely.
And I saw a post on Instagram this morning. It was a woman cooking in her kitchen. And what the gist of the post was is that they sold us convenience, just like Connie said. They sold us convenience, and we left the kitchen. We left scratch cooking. We left cooking with real ingredients. We left cooking our own or growing our own food.
Exactly.
And what have we ended up with? The sickest population that this country has seen ever.
100%. So what do we do to get back to what nature intended?
Thank you, Connie. Tell us what to do.
Yeah. First of all, you make up your mind that it does matter to you, and appreciate that you don't have to be perfect at it. We're all going to go to a restaurant and enjoy a meal with friends and family. And that is something that is going to be laden with toxins, the bad oils, the GMOs, and all of that. But more times than not, I would really ask you to consider to go to the grocery store, buy the best quality food you can afford, and take it home and actually cook it and eat it. And so that means, if you have been living on, the Pop-Tarts and maybe a yogurt for lunch, and then a TV dinner or a healthy choice frozen meal, because that's, what you knew and worked once upon a time to keep your weight down and or feed yourself, then you want to then buy a carton of organic eggs and some, strawberries for breakfast. And then at lunchtime, if you do eat 3 meals a day, at lunchtime, you then have, maybe you get some grass-fed beef or some a can of wild caught salmon, and make yourself a salmon salad or some beef patties with some vegetables. And then at dinner time, you do something, like a baked potato and another piece of protein, some quality chicken and vegetables with some butter, and, just eat real food. That's important.
Yeah. And one thing that I have learned along the way, and I'm about a year and a half in working with Connie, and it just gets a little bit better all the time. And I am not perfect. I have a treat once a week. I just got done traveling and I could not cook for myself while I was traveling. So I ate what was available and I tried to make good choices. It's not always perfect, but when I'm at home and I can manage completely the food that comes into my house, I do. And boy, there's not boxes in my cupboard because I've learned that that stuff will make me sick. It literally will make me sick. And Connie, I did this one thing yesterday. It's so funny. Connie has moved me, and I'm grateful, to mostly eating protein. A meal for me is protein, and then I will add in a little something on the side if I need it. Sometimes I'll just eat a steak for a meal, and that's fine. Sometimes I'll add a little potato or a little vegetable or some tomatoes from my garden. I went out with a girlfriend to this beautiful organic farm the other day, and I had a roasted vegetable salad with chicken. I had more vegetables than I'd had in a long time, and oh my gosh, I could tell the difference. And the funny thing is that we're continually encouraged to eat your vegetables, and I just right now, I do better with protein. I just do. My body likes it better.
Do you want to know why?
Yes.
Okay. So when we get to our menopausal years, our hormones deplete, obviously. And our bodies are very different in the way that maybe we have less robust digestive capabilities, and all of the fibers in those vegetables. Definitely, there's glucose in the vegetables. There's carbohydrates, because even a leaf of spinach has glucose in it, because that's the way it's structurally created. It is takes longer to digest because you do have the protein. So protein and carbohydrates together compete in the belly as digestion, and it slows everything down, and you ferment within.
Oh, okay.
So, the fiber, we've heard forever that fiber is so important, and it is, but some of us tolerate it better than others. And I know that we're going to talk about diet dogma here in a bit, but we are definitely having a moment with the whole vegetarianism, veganism versus carnivore. There's this war going on in the camps. We are genetically unique, and we were all genetically, we come from a different place on the planet. Each, like the Hawaiians had the food. Think of the food in Hawaii. The tropical, they had the poi, the very rich carbohydrate starch. They had the fruits high in sugar. They had the lighter proteins like the fish in the ocean versus the Eskimo. The Eskimo had a lot of fat, whale blubber, and a lot of fish. They also had very few carbohydrates. Wintertime, they didn't have carbohydrates. They subsisted on seal, and fat and fish that they could find, and bear, and all those things. So when we think about early humans and what food was, available for them to sustain their existence. Appreciating that we're all genetically a little bit different. Some of us can handle grains and beans and those types of carbohydrates better than some other of us. Okay. So when we understand that we have these unique differences, we're definitely giving ourselves more bandwidth to appreciate how our body is working. Okay,
Yeah.
there's so many other contributing factors. There's gut health, so I can go into that, but I feel like for this type of a, conversation, we just appreciate that if you find that you're doing better on higher proteins and you're eating healthy animals and you're not requiring many, your energy's good, you're not constipated, you're not inflamed, and you're losing fat consistently, and you're feeling good, you're sleeping good, then that is a green light, in my opinion, for you to continue on with that type of diet as long as you're getting enough.
Yeah. And the one thing that I can say is since I've changed my diet, I am not hungry.
Right.
I am not hungry at all. And there's times that I have to I got to eat something. Not so much that I'm hungry, but I know that I want to keep my metabolism going. Can we kind of segue into diet dogma now, Connie?
Yes.
I'm sure it's one of your favorite subjects.
I would love to. The diet dogma is definitely like religion. It's going to be different in terms of what you have heard or what you believe. Okay. So, there's the vegan diet. There's, again, like we said, the carnivore diet. There's the omnivore diet. There's the low calorie diet. There's the low carb diet. There's the keto diet. There's, I could go on and on. And I feel like those that, for the most part, in my practice, what I preach is do what works for you. And when you are overweight and inflamed and dealing with mad hunger, and you can't get through the day without snacking, then you need to just dial in your choices. Find a macronutrient ratio. And I'll just say I have a YouTube channel. It's called Over 50 Fat Blast. I have a lot of videos on your macro. Well, I just posted a video on macronutrient ratios and then a 7-day diet plan, I think. I'm really trying to offer that information so that the audience has a little bit more to go on because it is so confusing. But you need to just start eating clean, wholesome food and maybe paying attention, and don't worry about so-and-so, lost 20 pounds on the vegan diet. And so-and-so, my friend, I watched her, Kimberly, she's almost carnivore, and I'm sure that's unhealthy. So I couldn't possibly do that, but just get started with something and don't get too worried about, I didn't get my 100 grams of protein today. Because it all works itself out unless you have a massive food, abuse issue. And there's that camp too, right? But for the most part, the majority of women that I work with do amazingly well by just getting some clarity and some focus on eating real food.
Yeah. And
Okay.
that's the truth. And what I can say, and I'll just share my personal experience. Everybody's body is different, and we can see that. And there's a reason that everybody's body is different, and we just need to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
When I switched up my diet to mostly protein, I had always had a blood sugar issue my entire life. I was, high, and then I would crash and I'd get the shakes and I'd start sweating and I couldn't think clearly and I got irritable. This was my life. It was just this blood sugar spike and I couldn't figure it out. Once I got a diet that's mostly protein, my blood sugar is so stable and so even. And I can tell, like, if I'm out and I eat something that has carbs in it, just because that's the choice I had at the time,
Sure.
I know that I'm going to experience that little bit of blood sugar crash just because I have found peace and happiness with my blood sugar when I'm eating mostly protein. It's different for different people. And, I have just had such a wonderful time not having those blood sugar crashes. I guess my point is that once you find out what really works for you, it just makes life so much more pleasant because I'm not managing blood sugar crashes. I don't get hungry. I just feel really stable most of the time.
When we can appreciate that food is information for our body and our hormone regulation, okay? When we can appreciate that that information is giving the body license to do the things. And when you have a fuel mix that is very, very clean and pure, then of course you're not going to need to continue to add to the fuel mix because Kimberly, you have gotten so streamlined and clean in what you're adding into your vessel, and your body is now efficient at utilizing that fuel because you have taken out all of the bad, most of the bad, let's say 90% of the bad, and you only offer it high octane, really quality fuel, then of course you've got this sustainable energy source that is absolutely, your body can rely on it. So you're firing on all cylinders.
Okay, that brings up something that I want to talk about because I'm curious about this. As we get off of those inflammatory toxic ingredients in
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
and my hot button is seed oils. Seed oils are so horrible. It's not even food. It was actually a lubricant for equipment, manufacturing equipment, and they decided to repackage it into an oil for human consumption.
Yeah.
It's not even food. It was another corporation figuring out a way to make money at our expense.
Yeah.
But what I digress. I tell you, I'm on a roll about this. Here's what I'm curious about because when I look at my face now, and you guys, if you're curious about this, when we're done, you can go over to my channel and scroll all the way down and look at my face when I first started my channel, like almost 5 years ago. You're going to see a tremendous difference. Now, keep in mind, I'm 5 years older now, but you're going to see a huge difference in the shape of my face because I'm not inflamed. And when we're wearing a size 14, which I was about a 12, right around there, I'm thinking I'm fat. That's what we say. I'm fat. And the fact is that I was mostly inflamed. My body was inflamed. And it just seems to keep getting a little better over time. And I just saw a girlfriend, I hadn't seen her a couple of weeks, and she went, "Oh my gosh, you're looking so slender or slim or something." And I know it's not necessarily a change in the fat of my body, though it might be a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a change in the inflammation. But this takes time. I'm a year and a half into this, and I'm continuing to become less inflamed. Can you talk about inflammation in the body and what it looks like and why does it take so long to cycle that out?
Well, inflammation is a direct protection mechanism of the body. When the body uh, senses something toxic, it will circle that molecule with fluid and slime, and it builds inflammation. Okay, so then it encapsulates it to protect you. And then if it doesn't get a chance to get rid of it, whether you sweat it out, you pee it out, you poop it out, you then it sequesters it into further into the body cellularly. Okay, that then, I'm going to say, begets more inflammation. And then you have this kind of a chronic inflammatory response syndrome when the body's on red alert. We've got so many, cortisol, adrenaline, everything is like heightened because it's threatened. And that just kind of layer upon layer upon layer of this, we've got years. It's not only food. I mean, it's EMFs, it's what we're, what they're putting in the water, what's in the air, all of these influences that are modern times, modern days. I mean, that's the society we're in. So we really do want to be more critical about choosing foods that won't continue to inflame us, right? Okay, so as your question about how does it, how long does it take, and why am I continually, looking better and better and better? Well, because you're healing, Kimberly. And that's why I want to stress that consistency matters. Ladies, it's not about going on a diet. That's not what I'm selling here. I'm really wanting you to appreciate how important it is to be exemplary in your lifestyle so that you can have a very calm body. So your body has more energy to lose the fat, to burn the fat. And when you're eating low calorie and low quality, you're just messing with the whole works. Having the bandwidth and the understanding that, 3 eggs with some mushrooms scrambled in the morning is going to be hugely impactful on your glucose, your blood sugar levels, your insulin levels. It's going to give you some protein. It's going to give you some fuel. And then you can make it without snacking until the next feeding window, right?
Yeah.
And we haven't even gone into, meal timing. But when I see someone, that's inflamed and large, it's the first thing. It's like, let's go back to basics. Let's get you eating real food, because your body then will be able to have more. First of all, you're not adding toxins in on the, 3 times a day or more, and you are feeling more in control, and then allows your body to let go of some of the toxic load. That's when, the keto flu, they call it the keto flu. If you go from eating standard American to, okay, I'm going to do a low carb diet, and I'm motivated, I'm going to go on a diet. Well, a lot of times you fall on your face because you start feeling really bad because your blood sugar's all over the place. You've got toxins flooding off of you because you haven't fed those toxins, and they're starting to, dissipate somewhat, and the inflammation is going down. Well, those are all things that you're going to expect to happen if you stick with it. And Kimberly, you've done that for 1.5 years now. Although I want to say, you were eating well before. You were aware of the quality of food and how important it is for your vessel, but it wasn't enough. So that's how it's like the next level and the next level. You were able to kind of step a little bit, more forward in your healing journey because of you got stable where you were with a consistent regimen, and it wasn't perfect, but it was consistent. And you then were, now it's like, okay, what else can I do? you had more bandwidth, you had more energy, you had more maybe desire, and then you went, you know, to the next step. And the whole way through, it didn't feel like a diet, and it didn't feel like you were depriving yourself, and you didn't feel like you were missing anything, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I want to stress the sustainability and the maintainability of lasting fat loss, and understanding that, yeah, there's a lot to it and it's overwhelming. But if you shrink it down into the simple steps of eating real food and, you know, just not overthinking it.
Yeah. And it's almost like we just have to change direction. You know,
Yeah,
we've really been herded into this concept of buy the packaged foods in the store, believe the advertisements, believe the labels, believe all that. That is not serving us. And all you have to do is look around. All you have to do is look around. Now, it's worse in the US than it is in Europe. And we've had a couple people in the comments say, I'm so glad I live in Europe.
yeah,
There is less toxicity in foods on other parts of the planet
sure.
because their government don't allow it. Our government is completely compromised. The agencies that are supposed to be watching out for our health are watching out for their kickbacks.
Sure.
So we have to take charge, walk away from that direction we've been pushed down. You know, the Taco Bell fourth meal of the day, the Panera bread, you can't even believe how toxic that food is. To go back to eating real food. Now, I want to jump in here really quickly, Connie, with a question in the chat that's more specific, but we can come back to the broader
Okay.
concept. Connie, can you touch on how the food change might affect one's cholesterol blood work? How does that work out?
Oh, good question. Thank you so much. Cholesterol is manufactured by the cells and the liver when the body is perceiving danger. Okay. Well, that's the bad, you know, the high cholesterol. Cholesterol is where our hormones are made. Cholesterol is not the enemy, ladies. Okay. When you have fat loss, when you have gone to more of a carnivore or a protein rich diet, you typically are losing fat. You are starting on your weight loss journey. Do not be concerned, overly concerned with your cholesterol 3 weeks into a low carb diet, because it is going to be very, very high because you have fat leaving your cells. Where does it go? It doesn't magically disappear. It goes into the bloodstream, and it is going to be perceived as high cholesterol by your doctor, typically. There are so many caveats to dangerous cholesterol, okay? So when we appreciate that, give it time. You know, don't run to your doctor because you've lost 20 pounds and you feel great. I'm going to get my blood done. And if you do happen to have your blood tested at that point in time, appreciate that. Okay. And educate your doctor. I've been on a low carb diet. I'm losing fat, and that's why my cholesterol is off, or I've been fasting. Okay. So it's a huge, problem for the conventional doctor who doesn't really understand, you know, what's going on, your lifestyle at this point. So give it time, and please just, you know, educate yourself.
Yeah. And keep in mind, ladies, that Western medical doctors get about 2 to 3 hours of nutrition training in their entire education.
Right.
They're
Right.
not versed in nutrition, and it's not, they just don't understand a lot of this stuff. They're great at fixing your broken leg.
Now, if you have not been caring for yourself and your cholesterol is high, and you are, you know, your triglycerides are off, you know, off the charts, then yeah, I mean, that could give an indication that you are highly inflamed, you're eating way too much sugar or starch and processed foods. You could be dehydrated. I mean, there's a whole soup of scenarios that I can look at as a blood work specialist to give you some, new parameters and support in arriving at a healthy cholesterol panel.
Yeah.
It takes
Okay.
time though.
Yeah. We have another question. Does mucus translate into inflammation?
Mucus, absolutely. Histamine. The body is going to produce mucus when it needs to support itself and to, like the high histamine is when, if you have dairy and you get stuffy, or you have something, that you're allergic to, and all of a sudden you're puffed up. That is, again, mucus and water. It's going to surround the cell and try to get rid of it. That's how the body protects itself.
Yeah. So if you wake up and you're all stuffed up.
If you had Mexican food last night and a bunch of dairy, I mean, I know you did a video on that.
I
and
did.
You wake up and you're stuffed up and puffed up, then
And
you know that
heavy
your body is
headache.
just doing what it's designed to do. Thank your body.
Yeah.
Please don't be mad.
Yeah.
It's just a response. It's a symptom.
And the nice thing is I've noticed that now that my body's kind of cleaned out, and I'm clear that it's going to take a while, because the things that Connie mentioned, it's in the
Kimberly, I'm
air.
going to stop you. You're never going to get it done.
Never.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a question, but I don't want to leave the question, but I'm grateful now that because my body's a little bit cleaner, that I can notice when I eat something that my body doesn't like. Absolutely. Because it shows up more. And Connie's referring to a video I did. It's called The Dangers of Healthy Eating. And I just got the craving for Mexican food one day, went out and ate a big plate of it, woke up the next morning, I was just like, ugh. So I found flavor alternatives to doing that. Okay, we have a question over in the chat. It says, is there a purpose in fermented foods? And I know there is. Can you talk to us about fermented foods?
Absolutely. Our microbiome, the gut bugs that make up our gut, flora, are hugely important in how our body responds to foods. And yes, I don't talk a lot about fermented foods, but probiotics and fermented food are very important, especially if you have if you have gut issues, and there's a whole controversial depending on, chronic inflammation. And, so it depends. I'm going to caveat most of the things that I talk about, it depends on you. But yes, I would highly recommend incorporating kimchi, miso, sauerkraut, yogurt if you can tolerate it, kombucha, and the likes, those fermented foods in as many ways as you can, as often as you can, to support the microbiome. If you don't take a probiotic, okay, and that's a whole nother conversation. But yes, your microbiome depends on the prebiotics, the postbiotics, the probiotics, and those are definitely going to be beneficial for the most part to many of us.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to say something controversial here. Don't hate me, everyone. If you participated in a medical intervention, that medical intervention killed all the flora in your gut. And that's why a lot of people are having adverse reactions. Yeah. And you can follow Sabine Hazan, Hazan on Twitter. She's a physician that specializes in this. So your gut biome is so important to your good health. Thank you, Connie, for that. All right. So Bex from Texas said our soil is so depleted of minerals, the soil should rest every 7 years, and they don't do it. That's very true. And Dr. Zach Bush, Zach is Zach Bush, just like Bush out in your yard, BUSH, is doing wonderful work about soil regeneration. You can follow him here on YouTube. He's brilliant. He's kind of the leading expert on that right now. Okay, so what about plant protein? Is it as beneficial as animal protein?
Such a good question. Okay, so plant protein is a weaker protein than animal protein. And when you understand the relative strength of protein and how your body utilizes it, it's all amino acid profile. Okay, so let's say the very highest form of protein is organ meats. Well, many of us turn up our nose at, liver and hearts and, those things that used to be on the table 150 years ago once a week, because we had to eat the whole animal because we just didn't waste anything, right? Well, and when you think of early humans, the Indian warrior went, he took down the buffalo and he ate the heart to be as robust and strong as he possibly could. So he could take care of the tribe. Okay. So the organ meats are at the top of the heap. Then there's the red meats, and then there's the white meats, and then there are the plant proteins. Okay, we'll eggs, and then the plant proteins. So when you are eating your beans and legumes, if you tolerate that, that's a weak protein, in my opinion. The protein powders are further weaker because they are processed. Okay, the beans are not processed because they're not milled, they're not heated. The protein powders, especially the pea proteins and the plant-based proteins, in my opinion, are weaker proteins than an animal protein. So a lot of that profile, a lot of the calories in the protein powders are not going to be utilized as protein. They're going to kick up the glucose. So we need to be that's how Kimberly and I met. She had decided she was going to increase her dietary protein because her trainer, she called him the babysitter, was asking her to increase her proteins. So she came onto her channel with a huge tub of protein powder, and I gulped and I said, I know that's not going to go well. So I emailed Kimberly and I said, hey, I'm over here. I have a better way. And, here we are today. And so that is my understanding of the science behind powders. Now there's beef protein powder and animal protein powders that are less carbohydrate rich because of the amino acid profile. And it's complicated, and I know it is, and I'm sorry, but that is the story behind animal protein versus vegetable proteins.
Yeah. And when you think about it, most humans on this planet, and with different cultures, it's going to be different. With different ethnicities, it's going to be
Yes.
different.
Yes.
But in general, Earth human diet has been meat.
Red meat. We wouldn't be a species without red meat. We would not be
Yeah.
here on the planet.
Yeah. And if we had grain, the amount of grain they had was so small.
They didn't have, early humans we didn't have grain. You're right.
Mhm.
Yes, we need to be very careful, and we need to do better about how we commercially raise our animals.
Yeah.
That goes without saying. But if it's between a grass-fed steak and a conventional steak and you just cannot do better, I would rather you have the conventional steak instead of pasta. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It
So
does.
do the best.
And I make that choice all the time.
Yeah.
It's like I would even though the protein is not going to be grass-fed, I know that's going to work better for me than getting the bread item or that.
Exactly.
And it's just it's a constant trade-off. And someone commented earlier, and I'm really sorry I didn't catch your name, but she said if we stop buying the Fritos, the hamburger helper, the this and that, they're going to stop making it because they can't afford to make it and have it sit there. So we are making choices for how our civilization is going to change and grow by what the choices that we make every day. So if we stop supporting these industries that are literally looking at profit over health, and
Yeah.
there are lots and lots of corporations that know clearly they are harming humans, and they do it anyway because they are after the profits.
Yeah.
When we stop playing along, they go away. So let's stop playing along.
And I'll also add that many times, I'm going to kind of caveat that to snacks, because I dare say that not many women that are overweight are snacking on a hard-boiled egg. Most snacks are a processed, packaged food. And I am against snacking anyway. That's one of my hard no's. We don't snack. We eat our meals. We eat enough at meals to carry us to the next meal, because there's so many metabolic processes that happen in between meals, the cleansing wave to the gut. If you have gas and bloating, you do not need to be eating for 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours without food. We need that cleansing wave to synergistically clean up our digestive tract, right? In addition to the fact that we don't need to be adding in a bunch of garbage. So
Yeah.
even if it's almonds or a smoothie or, a whole food snack, but most of the time the snacks are something processed.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've learned and is a complete change for me. And I don't know if you guys remember, but like 20 years ago, there was this grazing thing that they put
Yes.
out that you're supposed to be grazing all the time. That's how you lose weight. Connie said, we have an eating window. You sit down, you eat, then you close that window.
Right.
And you don't eat again until your next eating window. And that was not natural to me. I had to kind of work into it. And now I don't snack. I literally do not snack.
Yeah.
And I don't even think about snacking. Like when I get done here, I'm going to have my lunch.
Right.
It's going to be around 2:00 my time. I've only had tea and some coffee this morning. So I will have fasted from last night. So I'm going to have my lunch, and I might have I have some organic tangerines. I might have that.
Yeah.
And then I'm done. I'm done until dinner time. And
And
I
a lot of
don't,
times I will, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of times I'll say, okay, if you're going to open your feeding window at 2:00, or even if it's 11:00, you want to have a feeding window maybe for an hour to an hour and a half. And you start your meal, you have your main meal, and then you kind of sit there and digest that for a good half an hour to almost an hour, and you kind of watch the clock. And if you open that feeding window at 11:00 and you had some salmon salad over a green salad, and maybe some olives, and anyway, so it's a very substantial meal. And then at 12:30, it's an hour and a half after you open that feeding window. At 12:30, you're kind of going, all right, I know I'm not going to get to eat until 5:00 at dinner time. I'm going to have my tangerines, or I'm going to have something that makes me happy. That's important. And it doesn't have to be perfection. It could be some chocolate covered almonds. It could be something that makes your heart sing. That's kind of within reason. And then you enjoy that and shut that feeding window down. So that's what she's talking about the feeding window, and how to focus your day in that capacity.
Yeah. And I've gotten used to it. I mean, it's second nature to me now. I'm going to jump over to a couple of questions. One lady mentioned earlier in the chat that she just can't eat all that protein. She's 71.
Okay.
What suggestions would you have?
Yeah. The amino acid, the perfect aminos, the optimal amino tablets that we like. It's a supplement. And my favorite protein powder is, there's a couple of them. The Equip Prime Protein, it's a beef hydrolyzed. There's a bone broth. Which one do you like, Kimberly?
I've got the bone broth.
Bone broth, okay. Those are definitely what I would prefer. So those two things, the amino acid tablets, are very, very wonderful in sustaining your hunger. You know, it really, it supports your body so that your body isn't always in this kind of a stress response to I'm starving, right? Which happens when you're not metabolically flexible. Okay. And so the tablets are five tablets equal 15 grams of dietary protein. And you can count that in your macronutrient ratio. So that's a wonderful tool. A scoop of protein powder is 20 grams. And I get it. If you are not able, because of quote unquote your age, you might to eat all the protein, you might need a digestive enzyme.
I take one. And I can tell a huge difference.
Every meal, every
Mhm.
meal, I take my digestive enzyme. And that is like, it's supporting your digested capability. Also, you need to chew. The saliva is going to help break down. And so that might be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And, let's talk a little bit about supplements and other things that we can do. And the thing I want to just continue to drive home is that we're not living in a clean environment. The water is not clean. The air is not clean. The soil is not clean. It's filled with chemicals and pesticides and this and that. So we're not only aging and needing to be considerate of the aging process of our bodies, but we're battling a constant toxic onslaught. So the more that we can focus on keeping ourselves as flexible, limber, healthy, and energetic as possible, the better. So what can we take as far as supplements, Connie, that might help us stay energetic and
Yeah.
and mobile?
We talked about our soils not really having all of the, all of what it needs to provide the vegetables with all of the nutrients that we need. So a multivitamin is important. And I, think that it's just kind of insurance. One a day is not a multivitamin. It's a synthetic, waste of money. Centrum is not a vitamin again. So you want a whole food quality pharmaceutical grade multivitamin. I like vitamin D for sure because our immune function D, and I like the DK with K2 in it because it's more bioavailable. I think that a digestive enzyme is further ensuring our body receives a better nutrient profile because the food will be broken down well enough to be absorbed in the small intestine. That's where we absorb nutrients. Okay. If you're not good at eating, quality fish, then you might need fish oil, EPA, DHA. That's important. A mineral supplement, an electrolyte. Kimberly, you like the ion. I like the beam. It's just a little bit more comprehensive. That being said, magnesium is a huge nutrient that stress and toxins downgrade magnesium. Magnesium is going to make you sleep better. It's going to make you poop easier. It's going to just help with all kinds of smooth muscle function, relaxing you. If you're not taking bioidentical hormones, it's going to help, in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
It's going to help either, you should be taking it regardless. And I like magnesium malate. It's very well absorbed. It doesn't cause diarrhea like a lot of, or loose stools. Let me put it that way. So those are my and then the perfect amino, optimal amino supplement, I feel at this stage in life, non-negotiable.
Yeah. And Candace, I wanted the digest or the aminos is from Body Health. And if you go over to Connie's website and click on one of her videos and look in the description box, you've got a discount code.
I've got a discount code. I also have a new one that I found that is very much affordable. It's called Optimal Amino.
Oh, really?
And it's
I've seen them around, but
it's about half. It's exactly the same as the perfect amino. So I've just been, kind of touting them a little bit more. I can't find any differences. So
okay, great.
yeah,
I'll check them out. It's like because I have followed Perfect Aminos,
exactly.
I've been seeing the optimal
Which is
aminos
a
in
great company. It's a great company. And
Mhm.
there's 3 that make them. And
Okay.
I have found that the optimal amino is great. So yeah.
Yeah. Deb Willis says meat takes forever to digest for me, especially red meat, probably a digestive enzyme.
You're not, so you could do Swedish bitters, the digestive enzymes, apple cider vinegar, like a tablespoon in water, as you're finishing the meal. That could be very helpful. But yes, when you have stress, when you are menopausal, digestive, we just don't have enough hydrochloric acid and bile because we have been through the ringers, ladies, with our low calorie diets and our, everything, all the things that have happened over the years has taken its toll.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, Connie, we're an hour in. I can't even believe this is so fun. Let's have you come back soon because there's lots and lots of questions and I didn't even get to all of them.
Oh, good.
The one thing that I want to stress, ladies, and I know I've said this over and over and over again, but bear with me. It comes from a place of love.
I know.
We are living in a toxic soup. It's not our fault. We did not put all the chemicals in the foods. We did not decide that profits were more important than people. We did not do this, but we have to take charge of our bodies to make sure that we don't go down. You all know someone in your life who is not doing well. You know that, and you know their diet is leading them down a road that's not getting them somewhere that they want to be. So taking charge of your health is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. And as things move forward in 2024, it's going to get bumpy. And I want you to feel as good as you can and be as healthy as you can. So anything that you can do, even one step forward, drinking a lot more water, stop snacking, maybe add a little bit more protein into your meal. Stop buying that stuff that's preservative. Stop buying vegetables that are wrapped up in plastic.
Right.
Any of those little things that you can do is only going to get you started down a road to better health. So it's up to us to vote with our dollars, to vote with our choices, to make better decisions about us because all those agencies that we thought were looking out for us, they're not. Connie, I know I've been kind of the wild one today on this, but this is such a hot button for me. Being healthy is so important. If you're going to be on the planet, you might as well feel good.
Yeah.
What final thoughts do you have for us today?
Well, I'm going to echo what you had to say about you get to choose. And I really also want to support you in the decisions that make sense for you. And when you know better, you do better. And when you start to do better, you start to feel better. So make the choice not to be dogmatic about it, but choose healthy food and give it a chance. It's not an overnight phenomenon. You've been sick and maybe a little inflamed for years, or maybe 2 weeks, whatever it is. But your body is designed to heal. And if you just give it the support that it needs and stop obsessing about it, appreciate that it takes time and effort, and you're going to put one foot in front of the other. Give yourself grace. Love yourself all the way into health. Okay?
Yeah,
That's so important.
Yeah, thank you, Connie. I have Connie's website and her YouTube channel linked in the description box down below. If you want more information, go watch her videos. She really does share all this stuff in nice little compact packets of information that are so helpful. If you want to work with Connie, wonderful. All her contact information is over on her website. I worked with her just via Zoom. I didn't meet Connie until I was out in California for my daughter's wedding, which was such a treat, you know. So, she's available for you. It's been a wonderful experience for me. Connie, thank you so much for coming and giving us your time. I really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure. Your audience is lovely, and so are you, Kimberly. Thank you for doing such good work on our planet. Great job.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for showing up and for caring about the way you feel, because we want you to be healthy and happy and peaceful and loving. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.